Gnosia opens with the player staring up at a person called Setsu. We have just woken up and have no idea of what's going on. We have little time to ask where we are before Setsu leads us to the control room and asks us if humanity should be wiped out. No matter our answer, we are told someone in the control room believes they should. Our amnesia makes us an easy target for Ragio, who pushes the narrative that we are Gnosia and should be put to cold sleep. Ragio's colourful personality and kind words leads us to the first vote, where Ragio is voted to go into cold sleep. That night we spend a few moments with SQ, who wants to stay the night but can't as we begin to warp to the next star system. The next morning we find that Gina has vanished for a trace and the Gnosia are still detected on board. At the discussion, we ally with Setsu and vote to have SQ frozen. Afterwards, no Gnosia are detected on board the ship. We have won the battle with Gnosia, and with only the stranger Gina having vanished, everybody can return to their lives and move on. And if Gnosia was a normal game, it would, but Gnosia is not normal. Setsu hands us a strange item and says, "Don't doubt, don't be afraid, and know, knowledge will save all." The strange item goes inside our body, and Setsu introduces themselves properly, and this happens. This is the end of Gnosia, and its beginning. So, what is Gnosia? Gnosia is a 2019 werewolf-styled visual novel that was released for the best-selling, generation-defying console PlayStation Vita in Japan, and would get a worldwide port to the Switch in 2021 and imported to all platforms. The game was made by the relatively unknown Petit Depoto, a small Japanese team that's worked ever since the 2000s. I'd like to tell you more about the company, but the only thing I can find about is their first game, Unholy Heights, which is on Steam, and their producer, which is the only staff member which has their real name known. Gnosia sees you take part in a space version of Werewolf, where 15 refugees have been infiltrated by the Gnosia, a human that has come into contact with Gnosis and has developed special powers and a deep desire for the destruction of humanity. Werewolf is a genre of game where social deduction is used to work out the enemy within a group of people. They normally have special roles and powers for both sides and end when all enemies are defeated or outnumber the humans. The most popular example of werewolf would be Among Us, a statement that hurts my mental well-being, but unlike Among Us, Gnosia uses the visual novel genre to tell a story. And with the anime being dropped out of the blue, my motivation to finish my original masterpiece video has pivoted to this. Before we continue, this video will contain major spoilers for the majority of the game, and while Gnosia has many random elements, the story plays out mostly the same, so be warned. I highly recommend that you play the game before watching. Gnosia is around $20 or pounds on most platforms and is on sale often, but if you'd rather watch the video, that's okay too. I will put a warning before spoilers for people that are interested in the game but are unsure. Around chapter 6 of this video, we will start going into heavy spoilers, and Gnosia is a game best experienced playing. So with that, this is your last chance to avoid story and character spoilers. So, let's talk about the gameplay loop in Gnosia. In Gnosia, you play as a silent protagonist with a customizable name and gender. For the sake of clarity, I will refer to this protagonist as Ban throughout this video, and I'll make it a bit clearer as I tend to use Microsoft Paint in my videos, so seeing as we only have one screenshot of the anime protagonist, this is our protagonist Ban, who apparently has just become my OC in role-playing games when I play as a male. Gameplay in Gnosia is split into 3 different phases: discussion, free time, and nighttime. Discussion is where 5 conversations take place before a vote. Everybody alive gets a vote, and the person with majority vote is put to cold sleep. Somebody will always be frozen unless extreme circumstances are met, such as a draw between the same people 3 times. Free time is where we can level stats and view events. Every character has a profile that lists important information as we learn about their backgrounds. To complete Gnosia, we need to fill all character profiles to unlock the ending. Events can be split into 2 categories. Ability events are where we unlock skills to use during the discussion phase. They can do a variety of things, from using logic to confirm a person is Gnosia, to talking about boys. And character events where we learn about, well, the characters. The quality of these events vary drastically, from I escaped a cult to this ramen is so good. As we are in a time loop, every time you complete a loop you'll be rewarded XP. XP from completing loops can let you raise your stats. For the most part, stats aren't critical in Gnosia and are mainly used to unlock discussion abilities. For the most part, having a balanced build will work best for you, but let's go over the stats for those interested. Charisma helps others trust you and follow your lead in discussions. Intuition lets you pick up on lies. Unfortunately, it is the weakest stat as the trigger rate is low due to other character stats improving as you play. Logic gives your statements more impact, allowing you to put more suspicion on others. Charm reduces the impact of others suspecting you and will cause others to protect you more often. Performance allows you to build and damage relationships quicker in discussions. It also helps you lie better. Lastly, stealth allows you to avoid being targeted during voting and by Gnosia. It also lets you hide that you are planning a murder when you are Gnosia. This is a very basic explanation of your stats and how they work, as there is more depth to them, but it's very hard to explain without me looking like this for 5 minutes. You'll eventually figure it out on your own time, but if you ever do feel like you've made a mistake, this game does let you reset your stats and reallocate points. Nighttime is where certain jobs can perform their roles. Gnosia can choose who to kill at nighttime. If Ban is a Gnosia, you get to choose who to kill. The Guardian Angel can protect one person per night, but not themselves. They are also the only role that can't be revealed, but can be worked out. The Engineer can scan a participant to see if they are human or Gnosia. Doctors automatically will check the frozen body at night to see if they are human or Gnosia. Some roles like Gnosia can lie and pretend to be engineers and doctors to try and build credibility and protect themselves. Seeing as we are already talking about the roles, let's go over the other ones. The AC follower is a traitor who wants a Gnosia to win, but isn't officially working with Gnosia. As such, they are counted as human for the majority vote, and can be killed by Gnosia as the Gnosia are not privy to the AC follower's identity. The Bug is a special class as it can't be killed by Gnosia. They can only be killed by cold sleep or being scanned by the real engineer. They are a special exempt from the normal majority rules, as they will win regardless if they are alive at the game's end, and result in a loss for humans and Gnosia. Guard duty is special as they are two confirmed humans and they reveal their identity together and they cannot be suspected. Lastly, crewmates are normal humans, they are just participants in the vote. It might be hard to remember all these roles and to learn their gameplay quirks. Luckily in Gnosia you can edit every loop before you start it. The only role that is mandatory to have enabled is one Gnosia at minimum. That's a lot to drop at once, so why don't we return to the story and continue from where we left off last time. Well, the first hour of gameplay introduced you to the roles and characters, and for the sake of this video not becoming a Joseph Anderson length video, I'll only be covering the key points of the intro. So let's skip to the beginning of Loop 5 where we're introduced to the one, the only Yuriko. Yuriko immediately tries to get Ban lynched and everyone has to come to their defense, which Yuriko lets slide until after the vote. Yuriko pulls Ban aside and alters our perception among the crew, which is a fancy way to say that Ban no longer has plot armor. From now on, Ban can be suspected, voted for and targeted by Gnosia. How Yuriko did this is unknown and we won't find out until near endgame. To say Yuriko leaves a strong impression is an understatement. Unlike everyone else, she seems aware of the state we are in and seems to have zero interest in resolving it. It is also the first and last time we will see Yuriko till Loop 13. For a while after that we get to learn about the flow of gameplay and its systems, till we get the rug pulled out from us in Loop 8. The self-serving Ragio is now Ban's ally in this loop, but we are now the enemy. The both of them are now Gnosia and have a desire to destroy humanity. At night we finally see how the Gnosia eliminate humanity, when the ship warps to the next system. As the warp begins, the world enters a time-frozen monochrome state where the only coloured thing is Gnosia in their altered form. We choose our target and with a single touch, their body seems to burst like a bubble and we reawaken back in our bedroom. This loop is amazing. We finally see how Gnosia kill and how we are unable to identify Gnosia using normal means. It's also a great chance to see that in spite of characters becoming Gnosia, their personalities don't completely change. Instead they have a euphoric awakening and come to realise the glory of Gnosia. Fun fact, the only character without a Gnosia form is Yuriko, but she actually has one in the PS Vita files. And thank God, she's creepy enough with just one. Loop 10 introduces Jonas and Kuroshka. They are deeply entwined for story reasons, but the one of importance right now is Kuroshka. She's mute but can communicate her intentions well and is understood by the whole crew. Kuroshika is a character that needs their own section for both lore and theory crafting, but for now in this loop, depending on if her eyes are open or closed at the end of her introduction, determines if she's Gnosia. Loop 11 is where we finally get some answers, as Ban can finally talk properly to Setsu, so let's go over Setsu as a character. Setsu is also a time looper, but they are looping in a different order from Ban. They are our most trustworthy ally from this point on. It's also why in previous loops Setsu has been teaching us about the rules and mechanics of the game. Setsu wants Ban to share information and work together to find solutions to the loops so they can continue with their lives. A noble goal that is quickly made more difficult by Setsu being Gnosia in this loop, but no hard feelings. We actually get a special ending if Gnosia wins this loop and you are still alive. Basically, Ban and Setsu admit they both made mistakes this loop and really shouldn't have a bias for each other from now on. Setsu also introduces Ban properly to the strange cube that went in their body. Its name is the Silver Key, and it seems to be the reason Ban retains memory between loops. The Silver Key, as you can guess, is critical to the plot, so let's put a pin in that for now and we'll come back to its story relevance later. Things go good for a while until we get to loop 16, where a glitch occurs in the Silver Key, and continues to the end of this loop. The glitch being the introduction of the bug. I brought up how the bug auto-wins if they are alive at the loop's end, but I didn't go into how them winning is a bad thing. If the bug lives, the universe collapses, and I don't mean like mass destruction. I mean like the fabric of reality tears apart and we are taken back to the Silver Key setup menu, as the universe vanishes with only the trace being the memories of those possessing a Silver Key. With the end of the tutorial, let's go over some of the least important characters in this game. It's easy to forget that with the time loop situation, but most characters in this game are refugees from the planet Leo. The fact that some characters are plot relevant at all is honestly a miracle. So let's talk about the least important characters in this game. Skip to this timestamp if you don't want spoilers for these characters. You have a few seconds to skip ahead, but these characters don't bring much to the overarching plot. So, Chappie wants to transition to a cat. I kid you not, Chappie's big character trait is that he wants to become a cat and has a cat connected to his neck as part of his transition. He's a ship captain and the person who smuggled the character Comet to Liu. This is Comet. She grew up on a planet where children are tossed into a dark cave where death happens daily. She hides on Chappie's ship and wants to become a space captain so she can go on adventures. She has a tattoo, which is actually slime, which is a ball of sunshine that can see through eyes easily. Going to be honest, her design makes me think VTuber. Apparently she's the direct cause of some kind of event called the Comet Incident according to Setsu. Put a pin in that for later. Otome is a weird one. Like, very weird. She is an advanced species of beluga whale that can speak and uses a cart to move around. Otome, in a brief summary, is a young girl at heart. She likes romance and has a not so hidden crush on her researcher. Due to her intelligence, she's logical and pointing the flaws in others' reasoning, but due to her age, she's quick to get sympathy. And then there's Xiaoming, who's the exact opposite of Otome, an actual ass and not even a hot one. This man has very little care for anyone. He grew up with baboons that managed to somehow piss off the bigwigs and resulted in them being sent to a farm upstate. He has a soft spot for animals, which makes him have mixed feelings about Otome. He is also number 1 on Setsu's shit list, a fact that will become clear quite soon. Lastly, Shigemichi. What to say about this being? Simp, technically human, apparently 88 years old. To be honest, I could tell you anything about this character and it would have zero game impact. He likes retro games. I literally have nothing to say about this character. Just, what do I even say about this being? While these characters may not bring much plot importance, they're a real breath of fresh air when things get crazy later. It's hard to remember just how sane Gnosia was in the beginning with these characters. So let's move on and talk about things when the game starts getting a bit more spicy.
This food is so fucking good, Lois.
So, most events aren't earth-shattering early game. I joke that Gina liking Japanese food is so important enough that the Silver Key has to record this information, but that's the charm of early game. We are clueless. Setsu has a better grasp of the situation but doesn't share information that might cloud our judgment. We are stumbling through Gnosia looking for any revelations that might solve our looping problem. But overall, we spend most of our time getting to know these characters. One of the highlights of early game is Setsu asking Ban to help Ash Xiaoming to participate in discussions. Things go well despite Xiaoming throwing some very sexual remarks at Setsu, and Setsu threatening to throw him out of the airlock. It's a funny moment, until Setsu follows through. From now on, there's a chance that Setsu will kill Shaming at the start of a loop and everyone is okay with it. Nothing of value was lost, and Setsu doesn't even lose points with anyone. The first of many base moments from our genderless monarch. Also, real talk. The fact that someone can kill you and no one cares is a real mark of how much you were liked. Rest in peace, Piss King. Some of these early events actually have a surprising amount of logic to them. Skip ahead to this point if you don't want a heavy spoiler for early game. So in werewolf games, the only reason we don't kill everyone is due to morality of murder. Gnosia is different as gold sleep isn't death, they can be defrosted later and from what we see have no side effects. So we get a special event. In a previous loop, Setsu brings up the Kuroshka incident and the Comet incident. Remember, Setsu is looping different and they are vague on what occurs as we are about to see the start of one of these events. Kuroshka puts forward that everyone who isn't guard duty should be put to cold sleep. Everyone goes along with this plan as there is no glaring flaws as we can travel to a space station and get help from doctors to find out who is Gnosia if they are frozen. I haven't brought it up till now, but the reason why we take part in discussion and voting is due to a compromise with Levi. If Gnosia is detected on board a ship, self-destruct should be activated to prevent the spread of Gnosia. A compromise can be reached with the voting to try and preserve human life. I haven't really spoken about Levi much, but there isn't much character to get into at the moment. Levi is the ship's AI that runs the voting and freezing system, and he will be corrupted if Gnosia wins, and he's already had alterations made to his system so he doesn't know who has what role at the beginning of the game. Back on topic, the guard duty this time is Kuroshka and Remnin. Setsu tells Ban that the chance of this being the end of the loops is low, but having a break every now and again is good for mental health, so they get some sleep. All in all, it's a very simple and nice moment to just spend a little bit of time talking to Setsu, which doesn't last long. Setsu is killed that night as Remnin wakes Ban from cold sleep, saying that they are the only one left and that monster isn't human. Ban turns to see the monster. A young girl called Kuroshka proceeds to kill every member of the crew with a look of insanity directed at Remnin. So guard duty mass freeze is not only bad for information gathering, but there's clearly something between Kuroshka and Remnin. Put a pin in this relationship as it isn't explained till endgame, and oh boy is it an explanation. Still, events build these characters. Take Setsu and Shigemichi for example. We tend to look at time loop characters as people that come out of their ordeal better people, but the struggle is just as real and mentally draining. We see the stress getting to Setsu, wonder if they will ever escape the loop, and Ban decides to skip the discussion and watch a movie together. Setsu doesn't really get it due to their military background, so Shigemichi explains movie etiquette and Setsu lets himself rest for a bit. Shigemichi waits till Setsu wakes up to say that the vote today was that both Ban and Setsu would go to cold sleep, which they both thank him for waiting. Setsu changes their goal from just escaping. They want a future where everybody survives without Gnosia. An unachievable goal currently, but with nothing but time on our side, we'll figure it out. It's the only moment that made me appreciate Shigemichi as he's an idiot, but he's a genuinely nice person that would rather spend time having fun and cares about people despite the rather bleak situation we are in. I realise that there's some characters that I've talked about that you've not even seen much in gameplay, so why don't we go over some of those characters now as they are more plot relevant. From this point onwards we are in heavy spoiler territory as characters and plots begin to intertwine. So from now on I will be assuming that you've at least played Gnosia or do not care and wish just to see this video. First up is Remnin. Remnin is traumatized. He was a slave for a woman that kept his body paralysed for years. He escaped and has been in hiding by doing deep space work for 50 years in hope that she will just die out. It may be hard to figure out why Remnin is an important character, but as we will see during a special event that ends in him vanishing without Gnosia, he is the father of SQ, a relationship that doesn't bring peace of mind. Put a pin in the SQ father thing for now because it is very important for later. Stella may not seem that important at first, as she tends to be one of the most caring members of the crew and is its sole employee. Little did we know, Stella is actually present in all loops, just not as Stella. Stella is a humanoid computer made by Levi so that he can better communicate with Jonas. She has a desire for human emotion and is the most upfront with her feelings in the routes in which she is in love with Ban. She is so influenced by humanity that the fact that she can be Gnosia brings her joy, as it can only infect people classified as human. Jonas is insane. That's not my words, that's the game's definition of Jonas. Jonas is the cause of multiple deaths due to his insanity. What makes Jonas important is his relationship with a character we never met, but Jonas falls in love with. He spent years searching for his love, and in his grief comes across a pair of items that changes everything, and is likely the reason he goes completely insane. It's always the hot ones that are insane or crazy. Gina is one of the first characters we meet and comes off as soft but blunt person. But Gina is a self-sacrificing character that has went through a large emotional event. Gina's mother has went through a process of cybernization where a person is uploaded to the internet, reference it to in-game as going into heaven. Cybernization grants eternal life and is cheap for anyone, but has a major downside. While cybernation is cheap, reformatting is not. Without reformatting, the individual is lost to a hive mind collective, meaning that while Gina can visit her mother at any time, her mother no longer exists as a person. Cyberization is a very critical plot point, which we are going to discuss more later as it becomes more plot relevant. And the scariest person themselves, Yuriko, is a shrine maiden. While you may think of holy maidens and god worship, you're not exactly wrong in Gnosia's case. Put simply, shrine maidens are prisoners that are trapped on a ship that connects to churches. Shrine maidens are the people who perform cybernization, and they are hidden from most people in the universe. Shrine maidens are killed on sight if they leave their prison, which probably explains her lack of interest in anything. Being a shrine maiden, Yuriko has some understanding of the universe and can use it in several ways. Her most powerful ability is awareness, as she can let others become aware of irregularities in the universe. If ban is playing as a bug, Yuriko can also reset all ban stats, allowing you to reallocate your points and to view past memories. I kinda glossed over it earlier, but we should probably talk about the whole, Jonas has killed a lot of people by accident in this game. So let's get the easiest of these incidents out of the way. Time to have a look at the Comet incident. Comet is nowhere at fault for her accident. Jonas is 100% responsible for everyone who dies during this event. Jonas decides to open Comet's cold storage pod, and you may remember that tattoo Comet has? Well, it's alive. So that slime tattoo thinks that Comet is dead from being frozen, and since it can't feed off its host, it goes on a rampage as a protective instinct. We watch as Remen is eaten legs first, it explodes from inside Shigemichi's skin, and Stella sacrifices herself to try and save Xiaoming and Ban. We are quickly woken up by a very attractive Jonas who says that the slime's weakness is heat, so that he has turned the cold storage into a sauna. You may be wondering why Jonas did any of this. Well, don't put a pin in it, because this is Jonas being Jonas. This is so insane that Xiaoming, who was willing to die because he was Gnosia and didn't want to dwindle the hope of the survivors, jumps back into the cold pod, causing the loop to end. When the biggest asshole in the room looks at you and thinks you're insane, you really have got to reevaluate your priorities in life. You might think that's the end of Jonas being crazy, but it's time to talk about Kuroshka. During a loop in which Kuroshka is Gnosia and is frozen, she manages to escape and kill everybody on board despite being still frozen. Setsu and Ban decide to look throughout the whole ship and eventually look in the one place they were not able to search, the storage hangar. This is easier said than done. Setsu can't use her military override while Gnosia are on board, and Jonas won't let us see it for some reason. Eventually we get a perfect loop, with neither Ban or Setsu being Gnosia, and Jonas is eliminated before the end of the voting. Checking the storage hangar, we find the truth of Kuroshka. That pair of twin items Jonas bought were autonomized dolls that can move, and for some reason one of these dolls has a conscience called Kuroshka. Kuroshka is able to move her mind from the main body to the other body when frozen. The game also explains the reason that Kuroshka doesn't kill in every loop is due to Setsu using their new knowledge on previous loops to prevent this from happening. In our next loop, we grill Jonas for details about Kuroshka, which boils down to that she resembles his lost love and the fact that she is like a real person. Jonas views her as a godlike existence. This is a really sus thing to say considering that she is considered 15 in game, but we're going to let it slide because we don't have time to talk about Jonas's criminal record. I would like to say that is the end of Kuroshka and we can stop talking about her, but when I said that she needs her own section, I really meant it. So, up till now things are going okay. You've probably seen a few events like Otome freezing herself to stop the bug from destroying the universe, Gina committing suicide by jumping into space to save the ship despite being Gnosia, SQ making a pact to kill everyone else because she's scum of the earth. Oh wait, you haven't heard about it? Well, let's talk about SQ. SQ is the poster child of Gnosia. She's also a human cesspit in the best way possible. Now that we are talking about SQ, we should probably go over the Rem and Daddy situation because it's very complex. SQ comes from a mother that seeks eternal life through body jumping. This is noticeably difficult as for the best results you need a body with similar DNA, as such using a child. So enter body number 26, also known as SQ. While we never get actual confirmation that Remen is SQ's father, considering some of the very fucked up stuff that the mother does, I would not put it past this game. SQ theorises that the SQ that is Gnosia is actually her mother in other timelines. The SQ that is human is the SQ that survived the body transplant and has gained a few of her mother's memories. This is why SQ's personality is similar in all loops, but if you're paying attention, she uses different honorifics as it is her mother talking through the body. Also, she's 1 year old, so like if you want to load this, you have to deal with the fact that she is literally 1. Ragio is a smartass, a rich kid that comes from the advanced but strict upper echelons of society and respects intelligence beyond all else. Despite being a smartass, Ragio will tell you as it is and will be constantly against you, even if you are an ally. They are such a smartass that they constantly are voted off first because everybody dislikes them. Even the quote-unquote friends of the group don't like them. In a special loop, Ragio will have their existence altered in a similar way as Ban by Yuriko, which causes them to be physically unwell by looking at Ban and will be hostile the whole loop. It's unclear until the end of the loop why Ragio was hostile, but Ragio drops a bombshell at the ending. Detection of Gnosia begins after someone is eliminated, which means that on the day before we start voting, someone has to have already disappeared. Ragio also causes the world to collapse, but not before telling Ban the truth of the bug rule. The bug exists as a contradiction of nature. In the case the person who disappeared on day 0 is still alive on day 1. Ragio confirms who disappeared on day 0. It was the player, it was Ban. Setsu has no clue about Ban's elimination in loop 1, but Levi does confirm that data has been tampered with on the ship, meaning that it's likely someone was eliminated on day 0. We also don't understand why Ban is alive under these circumstances, seeing as they've already been eliminated. Things continue for a while as we try and find more info. We see things like Jonas and Shikamichi play video games, Comet dunking on Chappie's now destroyed livelihood, Stella having enough of Jonas's everything, and Yuriko telling us the truth of Genosis. One of these things is more important than the rest. Well, it's time to talk about what Gnosia actually are. As said before, Gnosia are people that have come into contact with Genos and are now possess a desire for human destruction, but the truth is much less clean cut. Genos are a collective hive mind of those that have been cybernized and have not had themselves reformatted to have a sense of self. How people become infected and become Gnosia is unclear. All that is said is that they receive a vision that warps the fabric of their brain. The people that are killed or vanished by Gnosia have their minds added to the collection, adding more knowledge to Genos. So there we have it. The Gnosia are the attack squad for Genos to obtain more information, but this doesn't solve our loop problem. So Setsu proposes we create a special loop. The silver key allows us to set parameters of each loop, including the amount of Gnosia. So what happens if we put it to 0? So starting a world without Gnosia causes something unusual to happen. We start on day 0, a day before we normally start the cycle. We go with Setsu to the cafeteria and we enter a party in full swing. Everyone is happy to be alive, and they sincerely thank Setsu for saving them, something that Setsu has forgotten about considering how many loops they have went through at this point. Things are going well, but an unpleasant topic is brought up. The injuries Ban sustained escaping Liu. While we gloss over it now, we go and speak to the other survivors about a possible destination. While everybody discusses, Stella takes a strange reaction to seeing Ban. Leaving the room, we talk about the future with Setsu, but Yuriko, blunt as ever, says that we have no future. Yuriko says that Ban is something that doesn't belong in the universe, and surprisingly, Stella of all people agrees. Stella says when Ban escaped Liu, they were critically injured and were receiving treatment in medical. Setsu tries to back up that Ban is all healed, but we still decide to go to medical to see. There, we find a pod still in use. Setsu says that they are scared, but manages to calm down by remembering the words that Ban told them. Don't doubt, don't be afraid, and know, knowledge will save all. But this is wrong. Setsu told Ban these words in the first loop. Setsu seems shocked at this, but quickly seems to realise something that they don't share at the moment. The pod opens. The second the being inside opens its eyes. The second the other you opens their eyes, the world is annihilated. This event causes things to get wonky. We enter a collapsing space of time with Setsu. Using this chance, we start to piece together the truth of these loops. So the Ban in the pod and the Ban we've been playing as are both real. They are both the player. The Ban in the pod is the original Ban who is eliminated on day 0, and then the loop normally begins on day 1. We looped to day 1 in a world without Gnosia because day 1 can't exist if more than one of the same person exists due to annihilation. So how do we normally get around this problem? Well, we have an easy solution. Gnosia. The whole reason Ban is alive is because of Gnosia. By them existing on the ship, they can eliminate the pod Ban and prevent annihilation. This causes a few problems. 1. Gnosia are now on the ship and will begin to kill participants. And 2. The bug exists. The bug exists as both Ban is dead and alive, due to the fact that we have looped back to a point after Ban has been eliminated, and the universe has tried to correct the existence. Setsu reaffirms the goal of a world without sacrifice, where everyone can live, and then says that we should fill the silver key. With that, we are booted to the setup menu. That's a lot of information to take in, but with that we are close to endgame. Things go back to normal for a brief time before another special loop occurs. Something is off in this loop from the moment we start it. Setsu is not confident and is rather hostile towards Ban. It's a significant contrast to the reluctant attacks during normal gameplay, so Ban speaks to Setsu post-vote and is shocked. Setsu doesn't know anything. They have no knowledge of the loops and of Ban, as to them they have only met a short time ago. We are confused, but somebody has been listening in on our conversation. Ragio pulls us away and demands to see the silver key. So now let's discuss what the silver key actually is. The key is a parasite that once it hears the magic words, attaches to a host and begins to jump between alternate universes and traps them in a loop. Once it is full of knowledge, the host can remove the cube and open a door to another universe with a few catches. 1. A person needs to go through the door holding the now full key. 2. The world will erase the people that go through the portal and will retroactively fill an event. Anyone who has played Genshin Impact, think Wanderer. With that, let's return to Ragio, who actually has their own silver key, just inactive, in the cube form. Ragio theorizes that we are in a loop where Setsu obtains the silver key, which is more than likely Ragio's inactive one. We are left in a dilemma, as if we do nothing, Setsu won't be a part of the loops, creating a potential happier timeline for them. While we don't have to decide now, we overhear a conversation between Stella and Gina. The ship is heading for Alcuria, which in context is a fire alarm going off. I glossed over earlier, but Gina has an event where she sacrifices herself to repair the ship during an asteroid storm in Alcuria, which as you can see will cause problems in the future. Especially as unlike last time, Gina is frozen, leading to an emergency escape as the ship starts to break down during the storm. Which brings us to Setsu being pinned down and crushed under debris. Setsu's survival is frankly hopeless at best. So we make a hard choice and head to Raguel's room. There, we find the silver key lying in wait and head back to Setsu. Putting the key next to Setsu, they briefly regain consciousness to hear, "Don't doubt, don't be afraid, and know, knowledge will save all." With that, the key enters their body, and this loop ends with us finally seeing how Setsu obtained the silver key. This moment is amazing. Setsu has always been on our side, even when Gnosia, so seeing a Setsu that doesn't even have that level of relationship is a great reversal to the beginning of the game where we can doubt Setsu. I saved it till now, but when we voted for SQ in the first loop, we can actually do the other option. By voting for Setsu, we still receive the silver key, but Setsu laments that they couldn't gain our trust in that loop, which is a contrast to the joy they feel when Ban worked with them in the other timeline. This moment is also heartbreaking for two reasons. As I stated, not having your continued ally is tragic from a narrative perspective, but for those that have been paying attention, you have worked out the game's ending from this one loop. With that, it's time to actually talk about the ending. So completing any loop with all the profile information gathered will cause Setsu to request to return to the world without Gnosia. Returning to that world, things are mainly the same as before, with everybody celebrating and thanking Setsu. They take it in stride, but say there's no need as they won't remember it in a few minutes, which is puzzling. Stella tries to bring up the other Ban, but Setsu cuts her off and says that they are going to go solve the problem now. It seems like Setsu has a solution to the whole two people problem. Entering the pod room, Setsu has Ban open the door to another universe using their full key, and begins to explain how to survive the annihilation event from having two Bans in one universe. Setsu is going to take the Ban who is receiving treatment and the current Ban's silver key for the door and then close it, leading to there being no Gnosia on board and no second Ban to cause the annihilation and bugs to appear. With Ban having a full silver key, Setsu is still missing information, meaning that if they stayed, they would have to continue the loop. They also need to go through to solve a paradox. Ban receives the silver key from Setsu, who received it from, well, Ban. The Setsu that we met in loop 1 was this Setsu, that has just woken up with a Ban in the pod. Setsu lets her true feelings out, thanking Ban for everything, as we can only watch as they wave as the door closes behind them, and credits roll. Over the credits we get to talk to the crew who now believe that Ban was the one who saved them, and get a note about what they do after the game events. Finally, we return to the title screen that has been replaced with a group shot of all 14 of the remaining crewmates. This ending is devastating. Setsu has ultimately achieved their goal and created an ideal timeline, but it's one where they can never go back to, which makes it worse as they are now in a loop where Ban has no relationship with them and can betray them with zero guilt. Setsu can never meet this Ban who achieved this happy ending. This ending is also devastating in that Ban is the only person who will remember Setsu, as they are originally not from this timeline due to all the looping. It's also hard to admit that most of these characters will never interact again, some due to their personal journeys taking them away from each other, but the other reason is sad. These people haven't grown due to the Gnosia crisis. Every loop starts from roughly the same place, but these characters got to have personal journeys in different loops with Ban. Stella got to realise that she is more human than she feels. SQ got to admit that she is a terrible person but wants to be special to someone. Gina coming to terms with her mother's condition. These characters haven't grown as they can't remember the loops. It's sad, just sad. If Gnosia ended here, I would be content. I would still call Gnosia a masterpiece at this ending. But Gnosia has one last trick up its sleeve, one that you might not notice if you aren't looking for information. Gnosia opens with the player staring up at Setsu. We have just woken up and have no idea of what's going on. But we do. We tell Setsu it was rude to fall asleep during the movie, which gets Setsu flustered. Setsu is shocked and wonders why Ban is here. Ban is here to save Setsu. With Setsu hearing this, the final part of their silver key has been filled. Ban and Setsu discuss the first loop in which SQ is Gnosia. Setsu has a plan and asks Ban to sit out of the discussion and rely on them to end the story happily. Setsu immediately fingers SQ as the Gnosia on board and shows the silver key as proof of their answer, while SQ argues they don't have a leg to stand on by showing the silver key Ragyo sides with the pair and has majority vote. Setsu then reveals that when SQ is Gnosia, they are in a timeline where her mother has control of her body. Setsu calls SQ's mother by her real name, Mana. Turns out SQ was on the money, and she was the only member of the crew to never actually become Gnosia. When Levi tries to start the freezing process, Setsu manages to stop it by telling Levi that they are in no danger. Levi resists until Setsu asks Stella to please trust them, catching Levi off guard. Levi, now in his Stella voice, agrees, and Setsu asks Levi to bring the body to them. Setsu says that SQ is still alive and that they need to remove Mana so SQ can come back, and so that Mana can take the silver key. While Mana at first refuses after seeing the body, which is the lifeless doll called Kuroshka, Gina very bluntly says that it's okay if she gets messed up while moving bodies. Based Gina moment. Gina asks us to tell her what SQ is like. Setsu and Ban speak the truth that she is the worst girl, but they really want to see her, for some ungodly reason. After moving bodies, Mana can no longer speak, but takes the key through the portal with a very serene smile. We lay down with Setsu as the warp begins, while Setsu thanks Ban for everything and thanks them for being here now. With that, we return to the title screen, which now shows the whole cast. I have mixed feelings about this ending. Setsu's alive and continue living along with Ban with all of their memories intact. These two have formed a bond that can't be broken. Even when they were enemies, they were working together. But it's also a betrayal of Setsu's goal of saving everyone. More than half the crew are dead. While we could argue that Setsu achieved their goal in the other ending, it feels dirty. I still love this ending, but it's the only complaint I really have. While we're here, let's go over two characters that have been throughout this video but have now need their own dedicated section. Ban, the protagonist, is the weakest character in Gnosia. Because they are controlled by the player and are our silent protagonist, Petit de Poto decided to give the protagonist no background. We don't know what the protagonist looks like, why they were on Lua, what their job was, nothing. The protagonist is the most blank slate possible. If they were a spice, they'd be flour. I hope Aniplex does wonders when they adapt Gnosia, because the protagonist needs more. Like, anything. Tell me anything about this protagonist. Like, what do they do for life? Did they live on a planet? Are they a fucking monkey? Like, who the fuck knows? Setsu, on the other hand, fine line. From design to function, Setsu is the real MVP of this game. Setsu is clever, and the game is impossible to beat without them. Time and time again, they prove that they are more than a pretty face. Out of the whole cast, Setsu is the only character that truly grows as they retain their memory. We see Setsu change from an insecure person lacking trust in others, to a confident badass who does everything to protect the crew. I wish we could see events from Setsu's point of view, as the fact that they know about Mana shows that they have info that they obtained from various timelines that the player is never made aware of. Setsu is just so well written that they can carry the protagonist's lack of character. And now we talk about her. So, Kuroshka is Mana, and Gnosia SQ is Mana. This information adds a lot of context to past events and creates a rather interesting timeline. During the normal ending, Kuroshka has a strange moment when we ask about Setsu, as unlike everyone else that has forgotten and gets confused, Kuroshka simply smiles. With context, this makes perfect sense. Kuroshka, like Ban, is a conscience from a different timeline. As such, she is immune from the rewrite that occurs after the silver key is used. Kuroshka ended up in the past after using the key. She eventually escapes her loop and sent one of the silver keys through the portal. What happens to the other key isn't important, as it eventually ends up in Ragyo's family, where Ban and Setsu both obtain it. Kuroshka eventually goes to sleep along with the empty Kuroshka body. Whether this is by choice or not is unclear, but I like to think Kuroshka, having gained eternal life, is left unfulfilled. Eventually, she is awoken by Jonas and starts to travel with him, eventually reaching the start of the game where she is either killed in the Gnosia attack or joins us in the game. In a perfect timeline, there is no Gnosia infectees, and she has fun before going back to sleep. You might be wondering why Kuroshka doesn't result in a bug situation, and while the game doesn't expressly say, I have a theory. Kuroshka loops to a point before the original doll body was made, making them separate entities, and due to the other body being empty, the universe doesn't get confused. Also, it could also be, due to having a different body from the original Mana, the universe sees the Mana inhabiting Kuroshka's body as a different person. Kuroshka is such an interesting character as she potentially is playing the game against herself, as she knows that Gnosia SQ is her original self. She comes off as tragic as she will never grow or change, and she seems weirdly content with that, playing the role of the friendly young girl that most of the cast see her as. It also makes you forget that she is a monster. She has personally kept slave, highly likely to have violated Remen and taken her own child's body 26 times to preserve her own life. And those are her actions in her original body. During the game, she kills everybody if she ends up on guard duty with her victim, mentally and physically tortures others, especially Remen, goes on several mass murders just because she lost the game, and most importantly, doesn't warn Leru about the Gnosia attack. It gets swept under the rug, but if my timeline is correct, Kuroshka doesn't tell anyone on Leru about the attack, leaving potentially a whole planet of people wiped out. Kuroshka isn't a good person, but she's a damn good character. So let's go over why Gnosia is a masterpiece. So Gnosia's story is amazing. It's a tragic story about a group of people that under normal circumstances wouldn't meet, let alone be friends, struggle to survive as a group. It's full of twists and turns that rapidly change my view on characters, and builds up the mystery throughout till the big reveal. The characters in this game have very unique relationships and personalities, which can be seen through gameplay and through their actions. I always put my trust in Comet and Gina, which makes me a little biased, especially when they are manipulating me. The art in this game is amazing. Every character stands out and the CGs have such a life to them that you'll ignore that there isn't actually any movement. I'm honestly shocked at the quality with only one person made visuals for this game. There are so many CGs I didn't see in my playthrough. I've had it playing throughout, but the music, a bop. The fact that they used Vocaloid techniques to make this music does something to my brain. Miku-chan gonna tear up the dance floor and probably kill everybody on board at some point. But don't make any mistakes, Gnosia is not faultless. Finding events in Gnosia can be tedious. I spent over 3 hours hunting for the final events while getting footage. Some of these events are pure RNG hell. Protecting Yuriko was such a pain this playthrough. This woman needs to learn to stop pissing people off. But a masterpiece is more than her faults, right? Gnosia is a masterpiece because it uses everything to make you fall into this world. From characters to music, everything is made to invest you in this story and get to the true end with Setsu. Gnosia is a masterpiece because it knows what it wants to be and completes it elegantly. Gnosia deserves to be played, it deserves to be seen, and it deserves to be called a masterpiece. So, hey, this video was both a fun and frustrating mess to make, from my editing software changing, software being discontinued, and a personal lack of motivation at certain points. I aimed to have this out by Christmas, but as you can see, we are now in 2025, the year of our Lord and Saviour, which has been hell, and it's only January 15th at the time of recording. I appreciate if you would leave a comment or like this video, even if the comment and stuff is negative, because I'm going to have to learn this at some point. Overall, I did actually really enjoy myself. We normally hang out on Twitch, and these videos will come out when they are ready, because I've realised I have no schedule because of my job. Because my job is my love and hate relationship. And if you wouldn't mind joining me in prayer that Aniplex doesn't ruin the Gnosia anime. I have been burned so many times over video game anime that it's self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. I really have nothing else to say other than thank you for sitting through all of this, even if you watched it in pieces. This was a lot of work, a lot of time. There was a lot of memes that will never see the light of day unless I ever make a Patreon or something. Who knows, maybe I'll be known as a guy who talks about Gnosia too much and that's all I ever have in this channel. Oh, but oh well. I really don't have an outro, I'll figure something out at some point. There'll be some icon here with my links or something. Deuces?